Shu-bi, the High Diviner of Rekka, notices the sign of the Phoenix, an omen. General Kairo then moves towards the spot where he believes the Rakuho will land while he makes his prediction. When they arrive, they discover bind warpers within the Rakuho, but at that very moment, a Brihite from Luto appears, also desiring the Rakuho. Kai summons a Brihite using one of the bind warpers. The enemy refers to duplicate Brihite as Brihite, and Kai makes fun of them by saying that whereas Brihite is the expression of one's belief, theirs is a manufactured blind faith. The enemy Brihite is then swiftly vanquished by Kai. They notice a second Rakuho, but Shu-bi wants to investigate it personally because it is outside of Rekka's domain and seems unusual. Bit Namital and Elshaline are out hunting in Iki territory's Edger village. The Hornhair easily frightens Bit, but Elsha shoots it. Bit pretends to have shot the town when he returns, but Elsha says he didn't strike anything. When a Rakuho lands and crashes into Bit's house, the villagers witness the event. They start to hope it's full of food because they are hungry and try to cook it. As soon as Shu-bi and Rensen reach close to Edger village, they begin to observe the locals. Bit makes the decision to open it in order to see the meal and begins striking the Rakuho. A man enters and strikes Bit as it suddenly opens, complaining that it's hot. The village children leap in, believing that the food has escaped, and begin biting the man. The man then argues that he isn't food either. The man claims that although he doesn't remember who he is or what his name is, he did cross the wall. There is nothing beyond the wall. The villagers begin to chuckle. Then a robber shows up showing off his Brihite and demands that the people give him the Rakuho wealth. The bandit refuses to accept the villagers' explanation that the naked man was inside and begins attacking them. The bandit refuses to listen when the naked man tries to explain to him that he was in the Rakuho and asks him to assist him in getting back across the wall. The naked man receives some underwear from Atli Ariel. She employs a bind warper because she feels it is her duty as the late sheriff's daughter to defend the community. The bandit rapidly defeats her despite her best efforts to oppose him. The naked guy races to the Rakuho and discovers a bind warper inside, as the villagers explain that Brihite is a manifestation of your conviction and that the bandit is attempting to kill Atli in order to obtain her bind warper. He employs it, creating a Brihite, and confronts the robber. While fighting him, the bandit notices that the man lacks commitment and that his Brihite is strangely soft. The bandit is then easily vanquished by the naked man. But instead of dissipating and freeing a bind warper, the bind warper breaks, allowing the bandit to escape. The man decides to adopt the name Back Arrow at that point. Back Arrow departs in his Brihite Muga towards the far wall, but Shu-bi and Rensen eventually catch up with him when he collapses from weariness hours later. Shu-bi delivers him back to Edgar village and offers to assist him in a few days. Back Arrow picks up information regarding the fighting between Rekka and Luto, as well as village life there. Shu-bi returns to the band text archive in the Rekka capital to conduct research. The bandit tells about his encounter with the nude lad and the devastation of his Brihite while displaying his shattered bind warper in Maestrong Castle in Luto's capital. The Luto military forces the Iki president to rescue the foreigner and destroy Edgar village, despite Princess Fine Forte's belief that the foreigner's appearance offers hope for world peace. The Iki Defense Force's Tyrone Duster arrives at the village and starts to destroy it. But Atli uses her inherited bind warper to call upon her Brihite, Ryuju, but isn't successful. Sheriff Elsha discovers a second bind warper in Back Arrow's capsule, turns into her own Brihite, Shadow, to protect the hamlet, but she ends up in a cavern. Back Arrow summons his Brihite Muga to destroy Duster's bind warper and defeat Duster's Brihite, but once more, the wearer is not killed as a result. The world will be destroyed when a newcomer gains self-consciousness, according to a prophecy found in an old document Shu-bi finds back in the capital of Rekka. Shadow, Elsa's Brihite, emerges from the ground while serving as the figurehead for the enormous flying battleship Graniger. The approaching battleship poses a threat to the destruction of Edgar village and all nearby, along with Back Arrow's conflict with Duster. In an effort to capture the outsider, the Rekka monarch Zetsu Daiden gives his warriors armbands made from bind warper armor, recovered from the Rakuho. While Arrow is sleeping, Bet steals his bind warper, and the villagers are getting ready to give him to the Iki president in return for a new location to dwell. Atli tries to free Arrow that evening in exchange for protecting the villagers, but Elsha stops her, and Arrow decides to stay behind bars. Bet joins the Iki soldiers in protest as the villagers are transported to their new location on Elsha's grandeur after Elsha expressed her disappointment in Bet over the departure of the Edgar people. When the president of Iki orders his soldiers to fire cannons at Graniger in an effort to stop the ship from falling into Rekka or Luto's hands, Bet is horrified. After Bet throws his bind warper, Arrow calls his Brihite to save the ship. Then Arrow and Bet leave to look for a new home among the people. As soon as Emperor Daidan learns about the ancient prophecy, Shubi offers to kidnap Arrow. The young buddies Shu and Kai, along with other kids from their impoverished hamlet, are shown being offered to Rekka 15 years earlier and forced to become soldiers. Shu makes the decision to take advantage of the chance to succeed and alter the Rekka system from within. The four friends' mercenary force breaches a Luto border outpost in the neutral zone in the present. To get to the wall in the north, Sol Athen advises the Graniger Dreadnought to follow a route through the traitor-used neutral zone. Soon after, Shu and Ren arrive with Rekka soldiers to fight them, while Elsha tries to maneuver the Graniger northeast into Bankia. Atli and Arrow use their Brihites to attack the soldiers. To stop the Graniger, the four friends call upon their Brihites and deploy a decouple spray. Faced with defeat, Arrow splits his Brihite into 4 identical copies, assaults the four friends' Brihites and destroys them, transforming them back into human form. Without a single belief, Shu hypothesizes Arrow is not constrained to a single Brihite. Shu offers to join back Arrow and Edgar village and then abruptly disables all of the Rekka army's weapons and Brihites. Shu, who is awed by Arrow's abilities, gives Ren the task of traveling back to the Rekka capital and telling Zetsu Daiden about Ren's treachery. In a flashback from 10 years ago, Kai and Shu find a Rakuho and battle rebel forces to win the Emperor of Rekka's respect. Currently, Kai sets out to face Shu and discovers him traveling on the Graniger with the Edgar people. Kai is about to kill Shu since he won't go back to Rekka, but Back stops Kai and they both use their Brihites. Shu orders Dr. Sol Athen to launch a particle cannon from the Graniger in the direction of the capital. Kai agrees to return, but makes the promise that Shu, his old buddy, is now his enemy as expulsions rock the capital. Then Shu says they should move toward the north wall before the trick is revealed, since he had remotely detonated prepared explosives in the capital. Rensen consents to now serve Kai Roden in the capital. Under Shu's direction, the Graniger keeps moving forward. Kai, meanwhile, has locked himself up in the Rekka to strengthen his resolve to defeat Shu. In order to determine whether the explosions were actually brought on by the Graniger's power, Prime Minister Te appoints Kyo, the Minister of Defense, as head diviner. The Graniger avoids Luto and heads for the independent Waltson province when it comes under siege from a Brihite headed by Bra, a weak and attractive beautiful lad. After Back Arrow handily defeats Bra, the young man leads the Edgar leaders back to his farm, where the only residents are fugitive pretty boys. They were all intentionally raised by Lord Waltson as experimental animals for his harsh experiments to strengthen conviction. Shu makes the decision to go to Lord Waltson and proposes that Back Arrow defeat the pretty boys in exchange for free passage. It's a deception though, as when Walton's army comes to assault the farm, Bra sets up a smoke cover. The lads take all of Watson's bind warpers, and they then encircle him with Brihites. The Graniger travels through the province of Walton when Walton submits. The Graniger is being watched by Rekka's North General, Bai Toatsu, as it moves towards the wall in the north, through the neutral zone. Princess Fineforte chastises Lord Watson for invading the Graniger without her permission, and for performing unlawful experiments on the pretty boys in the Luto Palace. Before Commander Prax Conrad meets him and amputates Walton's left arm, he is unrepentant. When the Graniger reaches the wall, Arrow tries unsuccessfully to break through it, and Shu shoots the particle guns at it as well, but it appears to have little impact. The Graniger is suddenly threatened by a windstorm coming from massive wall vents that suddenly open. Then, in his Brihite, Bai Toatsu chooses to assault the ship. However, Commander Prax's flying Brightheit intercepts him and disables him. Bai Tuatsu is told to stop by Rekka Prime Minister Tae Hoa rather than start a fight with Luto. Shu accepts Prax's invitation to Luto for Arrow and the Granager, but Arrow chooses to remain at the wall. While Arrow continues in vain to reach the wall, the Granager accepts Commander Praxis Conrad's invitation to visit Maestrog Castle in Luto. Conrad is one of the 6 Supremes. Only Luto remains unconquered as the Rekka army continues its military advance into neighboring lands near its western frontier region. The Edgar villagers are treated kindly by Princess Fine at Maestrog Castle, and she extended an invitation for them to stay in Luto. Officials from Luto and Shu haggle over the details of the information exchange. Arrow gets captured by Prax as she returns to the wall and is taken to the Supreme Scientist Demine Shaft in Luto for analysis. Shu and Bit save him, but a masked Prax tries to take them back. The mask falls off during the fight, revealing an enraged Princess Fine who looks to have 2 personalities and is getting ready to kill them. Princess Fine pursues Arrow, Shu and Bit in her warrior avatar, but Prax steps in and diverts her, pledging to murder the 3 of them herself to protect Fine's identity. Arrow transforms into his Brightheit and flees with Shu and Bit since he is too weak to battle. While the conflict between Prax and Arrow and Brightheit continues, Princess Fine comes to the palace. Arrow is compelled to return to his human form as they move toward Maestrog Castle. Dr. Sola enters and interrupts the fight before it can continue, explaining to the others that Prax is her brother and is to blame for the princess's condition. He tries to persuade Prax not to kill them, but she refuses, so Sola detonates a flash bomb, allowing them to flee as she is rendered blind. Later, Sola reveals that his identity is Werner Conrad, and that he was expelled from Luto for endangering the princess's safety. As he gets ready for Rekka to attack Luto and take control of Lingalind, Emperor Zetsu in Rekka deposes Prime Minister Tae and confiscates his ill-gotten money. Zetsu unexpectedly challenges the general of the Luster Emirates to a Brightheit competition in a show of strength, but he promptly destroys his opponent's Brightheit with a handheld weapon. Then Zetsu declares war on Luto, but Princess Fine abruptly changes character and taunts him in public. Princess Fine, who is combative, declares war on Rekka and commands Demine Shaft to gather their weapons. When Dissonanza shows up, she brings the gang to the Depraved Palace, where they encounter elect Supreme Rudolph Conductor, one of the 6 Supremes, before Fritz Kraus can change into his Brightheit. Princess Fine sets up a competition between Prax and Elsha in the meantime, expecting to win the Granager if Prax triumphs, and use it in her future conflict. Elsha agrees to the challenge because Fine challenges her to a fight and threatens to slaughter the Ajar village if she declines. Back Arrow and the others try to flee the Depraved Palace, but Hans Paladin and the Armored Division Brightheits are on their trail. But Muga unexpectedly develops wings, and he takes off with his pals. Elsha utilizes Muga, which Arrow transformed into a sword before arriving to the Luto arena to defeat Prax. Fine loses her rage and turns into a Brightheit using a Bind Warper, but then her good personality shows up and takes control, sealing her other dark side inside the Bind Warper. While Elsha persuades her to use her love to defeat her evil identity, Elsha then makes the decision to team up with Fine in order to defend Luto from Rekka. Emperor Zetsu declares an all-out invasion against Luto. Princess Fine is persuaded by Luto's Secretary Supreme to conceal her split personality and get ready for war with Rekka in accordance with Rudolph's instructions. Shu helps Demine Shaft create his artificial Bind Warpers so that they can arm the Luto army. Rekka's army is 3 times as large as theirs, according to Baron Sujita, who instructs Fine to make preparations to oppose the anticipated invasion at Viola and Ciboe. The attack began at Viola, the nearest border crossing the Maestrog Castle, under the direction of Rekka generals Go Zenga with his Brightheit Baryu and General Bai Toatsu with Senpu. At Ciboe, Kai attacks the Granager to get to Shu, while Renshin engages Arrow. Shu has already planned a plan to defeat them both, so the Granager is moving forward to confront Zetsu at Viola. Prax manages to defeat the Rekka generals in the meantime, but Zetsu uses his handheld Brightheit weapon to pin her to the castle wall. There have been some victories on both sides of the conflict between Rekka and Luto. Arrow has hurt his hand, which limits his ability to battle by stopping him from performing his saber blow. In an effort to destroy the cannon and the enemy, Luto intends to entice the Rekka army into the Viola cannon. Although Kai tries to halt the Grandeur from encircling the Rekka army from behind, his injuries have left him too weak. Zetsu forces Rensen's conviction, and she responds by rescuing him in her renamed Flying Brihide, Reppu. She persuades Kai to use her skills, when he initially declines because of his pride, and the two of them combine to become a Flying Brihide called Gigan Reppu. Luto and the Grandeur are now defeating the Rekka generals when Kai and Gigan Reppu come, and he challenges back Arrow's Muga. They start the battle for the win, but as Arrow hits, he stumbles due to his damaged arm. Thanks for watching. If you want part 2 of this anime, then be sure to like and subscribe.